South Carolina. An update now on the hurricane as we are preparing to hear from the governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster, and other officials from the South Carolina government who have gathered at the Emergency Management Division there in Columbia. Will be providing a briefing in just a moment as we are now beginning to see this
Okay,
Category
everybody
1
ready? Everybody
hurricane's
turned
impacts
on?
across the Carolinas,
Okay, this is Josie
where the storm
McDaniel.
itself, the
Where's
eye, came
there's Holly.
ashore
Holly,
in the
maybe
Big
glad
Bend
to
of Florida
have you
this
with us
morning
again.
and now is moving
Chaplain
across
Johnny,
portions of
John Denny.
southeastern Georgia. We have both
Good
hurricane warnings,
afternoon. If
hurricane
you're a praying
watches,
person,
and
please pray with me.
tornado watches up
O Lord,
for
as the
portions
storm
of the Carolinas
approaches,
because we are expecting
we ask
to
that your
see some
hand of
rotation
protection be
involved with some of
upon
the
South
embedded
Carolina.
thunderstorms as we go on throughout the rest of the
Protect our
day, as
citizens
well
and
as the
watch
chance of
over
heavy
those who
rain
serve the
and flash
state
flooding. That's
during
going to
and
be the biggest
after the
threat with this
storm.
storm. Yes, it will be
Help
gusty winds.
people
Yes,
use
we could
sound
see
and
some
wise
scattered
judgment
tornadoes,
in
but it's
response to
really
this
going to be
storm.
that rain threat, that
Help
water
us to
threat,
not be
storm surge
complacent.
along the coast,
We
1 to 4
praise you in
feet,
this
and
storm
then flash
and
flooding
ask
threat
for your
across the
mercy.
Carolinas, both from
May
the
our
heavy
citizens
rains that'll be
look
falling
after
from the
each other
sky,
and
as
keep
well
one another
as the
safe.
creeks and
In
streams
your
that'll be
name I
trying to
pray
keep
these
up with
things.
all of
Amen.
that rainwater that is falling.
Thank
Let's
you,
take you now to Columbia for an
Well, we
update
have
from officials.
a lot of information for you, and I'll start just briefly. The storm is weakening as we know. It came into Florida. It's about 125 miles an hour. At noon, it was down to 90. Now, right now, as 2 o'clock, it's down to about 80 miles an hour. That's still hurricane strength, but it's not here in South Carolina yet. We don't know exactly when it's going to get here, and of course the winds will get here before the center of the storm gets here, but any time from about 6 o'clock on, everybody needs to really be on their guard, and they need to go ahead and prepare right now. This is not as bad as some that we've seen. We don't think it's going to be as destructive as some, but it is going to be destructive. It's going to cause, there'll be high winds, be a lot of water, particularly, of course, in the low country. Estimates are that up around Myrtle Beach, from say maybe above Georgetown to Myrtle Beach, it might be 1, 2, maybe a few more feet, but down in Beaufort it might be higher than that, maybe up to 3 or more feet. And John Quirello will give us more details on that. Of course, it's changing. It may go up to 5 feet in the Beaufort. We just don't know. But we're hoping that it'll weaken as it goes across ground, which is what they usually do. There's going to be a lot of rain. There'll even be rain in the upstate. We're going to have flash flooding. And we again ask everybody to realize that these storms are dangerous. There'll be water on the roads. There'll be water that does not appear to be deep. Your car could get flooded out. There could be a hole in the road. It could be washed out. If you can't see the road, then don't ride on it. Be very careful. And stay inside. Tonight there'll be winds all over the state, particularly more in the coast up towards the Midlands. But a tree limb can come down and hit someone, and you could break bones, have concussions, even be paralyzed. There are horrible things that can happen when the wind blows the limbs down, throws trees over, and also there'll be power lines down. All the power companies are making preparations. They already have vehicles and people and equipment out already pre-staged in order to restore power as quickly as possible, but we know we're going to lose some power. So that is the overview. We had a meeting this morning. We've been in telecommunication with the counties. Everybody's ready. Everybody's prepared. And of course, we're operating under an executive order, which I issued yesterday, that allows us to move people and equipment much more quickly. We are not going to have any evacuations. We're not going to have any closing of state agencies. I repeat again, this does not appear to be one that requires any evacuation orders or closing of state agencies, but the schools, some of the schools are closed, some of them are, and we urge them to try to get back, open back up as quickly as possible. The longer the schools are closed and the children can't go to school, then we know those are consequences for that as far as learning. I'd urge everybody, once again, get your information from official sources. There's always a lot of chatter in the social media. A lot of it is right. Most of it is probably wrong. But if you get your information from official sources, you'll be much better informed. So again, this is not something we haven't seen before. There may be newcomers to the state that have never seen a hurricane, never seen a flood. But those of us who've been here for a number of years have. And again, we've seen we've seen some bad ones. One of the worst was Hurricane Hazel back in the 50s. Another was, of course, was Hugo in 1980, 89. And that really hit us. This does not appear to be in that category at all, but it is still dangerous, and we are prepared. We have some shelters that have already opened up. We'll explain that more. Some are open now and more available to be open. And I'd advise everybody again to, and you ought to do this all the time. This gives us another opportunity to do it. Get all your papers, important papers together that you have to leave the house and can't come back. Get your pills, your prescriptions, your pets. Have a plan for all of that, and understand that you may be trying to get those things together when the power's out and you need to get out of the house. But until you have to get out, stay home. Stay home tonight. Don't go sightseeing to see what's happening. Don't go driving around. There's nothing good going to come from that. So we've been through this before. We've been through a lot worse than this one appears to be. So we are ready. Your team all across the state is ready, and we want everybody to be as ready and prepared. Don't panic, but be prepared and get your information from official sources. Director Stinson, Emergency Management Division.
Thank you, sir. Team South Carolina has had a lot of experience with preparing for, responding to, and recovering from hurricanes and tropical storms over the last few years, and that's probably our greatest strength that we have as a team. As the governor mentioned, he issued a state of emergency yesterday, which included activation of the State Emergency Operations Plan. Activation of that plan allows us to coordinate state resources more efficiently and operate under the emergency management framework that has worked well during many disasters, again, in the last several years. The State Emergency Operations Center here has also been activated and will be staffed 24 hours a day for the duration of this event to coordinate state response efforts. And current priorities here at the State Emergency Operations Center include support to counties, that's our primary mission, and contingency planning for possible transportation, additional sheltering, supply, and equipment missions. We started conducting county coordination calls on Monday to share information and identify any issues. And we've had a robust logistics system to assist local authorities, and that system has been validated again extensively over the last several years. We've only received a few requests so far for support, and that includes sandbags and shelter management. And those have either been filled or are being filled. As the storm moves through South Carolina, residents should keep in mind a few key points. Some of them the governor's already mentioned. Stay tuned to local television and radio stations for emergency information. Heed warnings from local officials. Stay inside well-constructed buildings away from windows and doors. And then do not walk or drive through moving water, and never drive around or move barricades blocking a street. Finally, a reminder is this is not just a coastal event, but much of South Carolina is going to be affected by the impacts of this hurricane over the next 24 to 48 hours. Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Christy Hall, Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Governor. The Department of Transportation, in cooperation with a lot of our local partners, have been conducting a lot of prep work over the last several days, cleaning of ditches, cleaning of pipes, just getting ready for the storm as it approaches the state. We've also surged additional resources into the projected areas of impact to be able to quickly respond and recover. That includes additional road crews to help clear any downed trees across the roadways, additional signal repair crews into the areas, SHIP, additional units to help motorists along our interstate routes to move through the area. We are ready to respond very quickly and produce a very effective recovery on the flip side. I would like to argue or emphasize the same points the governor mentioned as well, and that is if you don't need to be on the road, stay off of the highways. We do expect some flooding of the roads as the storm moves through the state, and then once we get into Thursday and the storm has exited the state, just be on the lookout. be safe as you travel throughout the state and watch out for not only the road crews that are working on the recovery, but all the other first responders. Governor, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Edwards.
Thank you, Governor. As has been shared by the Governor and Secretary Hall, we are expecting power outages due to the storm. Statewide, we anticipate that number could be around 200,000. Restoration efforts cannot begin until the winds have died down. So restoration efforts would begin once winds are consistently below 35 miles per hour. I would also point, just because of the timing of the storm, obviously the utility crews will be out there in daylight, but they cannot operate at night. Just a few reminders. As has been mentioned, you could encounter down power lines. If you do encounter a down power line, please report it to your utility, but stay away from any down power lines. And also, do as well, if you have an outage, don't just assume that your outage, the utility knows of it. Do report any outages, and if you have the ability to use, our utilities have apps. So if you have the ability to use an app, do report that outage. If you are a consumer that has medical needs and need consistent power, do locate to an area outside of the storm so that you can have consistent power service. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Leach.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Our mass care team and county partners have been working closely with counties being affected. We are working to anticipate the needs for shelters for our populations displaced by this event. Currently, South Carolina has 1 open shelter in Charleston County, 2 in Williamsburg County, and 1 in Jasper County. Likely, there will be additional shelters opening over the next 24 hours. So please check with your local emergency managers or www.scemd.org or download the SC Emergency Manager app to find one near you. We recommend that anyone who needs a shelter bring blankets, sleeping bags, pillows, personal hygiene products, medications, and any special food if you're on a restricted diet. We have partners supplying food and water at all operating shelters. And again, our shelter information can be found at scemd.org. Shelter staff are available to assist with coordinating accommodations and support for persons with functional and access needs. Some shelters are pet friendly, but staff at all shelters will be prepared to assist residents in identifying local resources to care for pets. And if you are an individual in need of sheltering and have an electricity dependency due to a medical condition, you can call the DHEC care line at 1-855-472-3423. Thank you.
Again,
If you are an individual in need of sheltering and have electricity dependency due to a medical condition, you can call the DHEC care line at 1-855-472-3423. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Summer, DHEC.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. So our teams are actively working to ensure that we minimize any environmental damage from the storm and also that the health needs of our citizens are being met. As Director Leach just mentioned, if you have a need where you have to have continuous electric power for a healthcare, some kind of healthcare device, please call our care line that is staffed 24/7, so you can call anytime, and we will try to find you a place where you can go where you can get that guaranteed electric supply. In addition, just a couple of cautions. Please do not go out in floodwaters, even if it's not moving. Floodwaters often have toxic substances. They may have sewage, other things in them. They also may have alligators in them in the low country. So please stay out of the floodwater. You can get quite sick from the floodwater. And obviously, make good choices. Be safe. If you are a dam owner, please make sure that you're monitoring your dam as much as you can do so safely. Lower the level in your reservoir if you need to. And if you have an immediate problem with your dam, call 911, and then also call us at 803-898-1939. We have teams ready to respond to dam emergencies. Again, that number is 803-898-1939. Also, if you live on the coast and you have significant damage from coastal erosion to a structure on the coast, we do ask that you go online to mycoast.org, mycoast.org, governor.org/SC. You can register there and input information about the damage, give us some pictures. That will help us know where we need to go first to do some damage and work with our local communities to make sure those are being addressed. With that, sir, pending any questions, that's my report.
Thank you. Just a couple of other things. We have been in touch with FEMA. The administrator called yesterday, Ms. Criswell. They have people involved already. They're here. And also, President Biden called just a few minutes ago to reaffirm that they were standing by with it, whatever help they could give. And I remind everybody again that this wind and rain is coming right at high tide, it looks like, along the coast. According to my information, Beaufort, high tide will arrive around 9:30. In Charleston, as you go up, is a little early at about 8:30, and Myrtle Beach is about 7:53 is what's predicted for those high tides. And of course, if you get behind the barrier islands on the other side, it's high tides a little bit later. But it looks like this storm is coming through just about at those times. It may be a little earlier, maybe a little later, maybe right on it. It'd be better for all if it were coming at low tide, but it's not. So that gives us reason to know that we're going to have a lot of water in the low country. Well, any questions for anybody? By anybody?
Are there any concerns about dams in terms of, have there been recent inspections, or are there any that are concerned about?
So we do have a list of high-risk dams. We did go out and inspect several of the ones that we had the greatest concerns about yesterday. All of them look good. Many of the dam owners had already taken some proactive action. So at this point, we think we're in good shape with regards to any dam emergencies.
Governor, you mentioned yesterday that you and the state have a lot of practice with storms. What has the state done better on disaster response since 2016 to prepare for moments like this?
Well, I think we've had a lot more experience. We've the main thing is the communication, collaboration, and cooperation has gotten a lot better, and that experience with these things, and I guess some of the instruments used to predict things have gotten better as well. But these storms are so strong that you always just have to do everything that you can do, but the main thing is to have the people prepared. And that hadn't changed at all. And that's why we emphasize stay in the house, don't go riding through water, don't go sightseeing, get your information from official sources, and take care of your prescriptions and your papers and your pets, those things that, well, if you have to leave in the dark and with a moment's notice, you need to have those things ready, because you're not going to have time to do that then. And because always and this as well, this time as well, we know we're going to have a lot of power outages, at least for short periods of time. So the best preparation that there is not on the government side, but on the public side. Just need to be aware all these storms are dangerous, and this one is certainly included in that. Any more questions?
With all this water, are there highways, particularly in the low country, that we're already expecting to shut down?
I'll take that one. So it's yes, sir. So it's all the ones that we normally expect to experience problems in a storm like this. So a lot of the causeways to like Edisto and some of the other island communities, of course, the Charleston Peninsula, we often see flooding there even when there's not a storm in the area. So the usual areas that we always expect to see flooding will be there. We continue, just like you all do in the community as well, we continue to monitor the reports coming through the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center to see what those storm surge forecasts continue to evolve as a storm moves through the state and the rainfall actually occurs. So, but we're ready to go, Shauna, so whenever we have a closure, we'll be quickly able to respond to it. We've pre-positioned assets in the areas that we're expecting to have temporary closures so that we can quickly respond once the water recedes to get the roads clear to the point of any extended closures.
Okay, any more questions?
Director Leach, you said you expect to open more shelters. What will warrant when you all do decide to do that?
What was the second part of the question?
What warrants when you decide if you're going to open another shelter?
Yeah, so the county will make a decision, just dependent on how affected the county is with around the storm. We have DSS staff prepared, ready to go. Red Cross staff are ready to go. We have a few. We have staff, Health and Human Services staff, already in one shelter. So currently, we have the 4 shelters. We have one in Charleston at the sheriff's admin facility. Jasper, the Ridgeland School Complex, in Williamsburg, Hemingway High School, and Williamsburg Recovery Center. And then we have a few others on standby right now. And again, the county will make that decision, and we will provide the resources and support for that.
Those people are already going to the shelters?
So the Charleston County shelter, we have a population of 6 already right there, and then the Jasper County, we have a population of 9. I believe at this point the Williamsburg County, the 2 facilities don't have anybody there, but we're expecting to see more folks as they need to stay dry or a place to remain safe during the storm.
We heard that Orangeburg is going to be opening up at 6. What are can you name the places that are on standby right now?
Orangeburg, it's the city gym. I think that is scheduled to open at 6 p.m. I think it's a low-lying area, and I think there's some apartment areas that could be affected by
On resilience, so we're making progress, but we got a long way to go. There's a lot of work to be done. Any more questions?
For those individuals that may be experiencing power outages tonight or medical issues, and I know 911 may be inundated, are there special numbers that you would wish for them to call and not overwhelm 911 services?
Yes, actually, I would encourage consumers not to dial 911 for a power outage, but to, as mentioned by Dr. Simmer, if you and by Dr. Leach over with DSS, do try to locate to a shelter, and if you need it, a medical needs shelter, as opposed to dialing 911 for an outage, unless you do need medical help at your home. To just report a power outage, I recommend contacting your power utility just to make sure that they know. You can't presume that the utility always knows that you have an outage at your home. But if you need medical help, absolutely dial 911, but just to report an outage, I would not.
You mentioned earlier that the number expected could be around 200,000, if that's correct?
Correct. And that's statewide, and it is an estimated number based on past practice that the utilities have had with prior storms that are similar to this one.
Yes, sir.
One additional piece on the 911 and medical. At this point, all of our hospitals are open. They anticipate staying open, including their emergency departments, so emergency services will be available. But we do want folks to remember that, if the wind speed gets above a certain point, or if, your access to your home is blocked by floodwaters, EMS may not be able to respond to you. So please consider that, if you're thinking about evacuating, that there may be a period of time when EMS will not be able to get to you if you do need help. Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more answers? Okay, thank you very much.
And you have been listening to an update on the hurricane and preparations ongoing right now in the state of South Carolina. The governor there, Henry McMaster, joined by his state officials on Hurricane Idalia, still a Category 1 storm as it makes its way into the Carolinas at this hour. As we approach the 3 o'clock hour, the center of circulation still over southeast Georgia, expected to cross into South Carolina and then back out over the Atlantic Ocean here over the course of the remainder of this Wednesday into Thursday. Before we go, let's look at the latest forecast we have from the National Hurricane Center, showing the storm still as a Category 1 as it crosses into South Carolina later on this Wednesday night. We have hurricane warnings up for places like Savannah, Georgia, Hilton Head Island, and Beaufort. Tropical storm warnings then as we make our way through Charleston into Myrtle Beach and all along the coast of North Carolina as well. The storm will weaken to a tropical storm strength, but that doesn't diminish what the threats are going to be for us. That's going to come mostly in the form of heavy rain. While it's very likely that we will see tropical storm force winds of at least 39 miles an hour or greater across a lot of the coastal and I-95 corridor of South Carolina, it's the heavy rains that stretch all the way from Augusta, Georgia, through places like Orangeburg, South Carolina, up towards Columbia, up towards Florence, and into North Carolina, places like Fayetteville and all along the I-95 corridor, and then even impacting places out towards the Outer Banks. Hatteras, you might get less storm surge, less wind, but you're still going to get a lot of the rain. We're looking at 4, 6, maybe 8 inches locally heavy rain here in places. Those numbers, but for the fresh rainfall accumulation today, really do drop off as you make your way towards the I-85 corridor. We've kind of edged Charlotte back out of this. We've edged upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina. Some of the heavy bands could come in that area. You could get some brief heavy downpours in Charlotte and Raleigh and Greensboro still, but most of this will be to the south and to the east of that I-85 corridor. Because of those heavy rains, we're still looking at a high risk of flash flooding along, again, much of that same corridor, the I-20, I-26 corridor, where we could see flash flooding as a result of new heavy rain today, compounded with wet soil from the storms of the past few days. Storm surge along the coast could be between 1 to 4 feet, maybe 5 feet in some local areas. So if you're going to be along the coast, this is storm surge on top of the king tide, on top of the high tide. And that's what's going to make the water especially dangerous. A part of this storm is because of all of that excess water that'll be across the region. Carolina Weather Group will have updates throughout the day. You can see live streaming warnings from the National Weather Service and the Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. We'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight for the latest on the storm. For now, from Charlotte, I'm James Brierton. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Talk to you again real soon.